When will African countries learn to live in peace with one another? When will African countries learn to support each other's growth? When will African countries learn to step in to provide solutions to neighboring African countries? The day this happens is the day Africa begins to get better. Pan-Africanists have been preaching about African unity for decades. Yet, till today, African countries are still having conflicts with one another. The most recent of such conflicts is the one between Mali and Algeria. Few days ago, Algeria shot down a $30 million Malian drone claiming that it violated its airspace. This singular act has caused significant tensions on both sides, with the Malian military leader, Assimi Goita, supported by President Traore, condemning the act. But the question is, why did Algeria destroy the drone? Even if it truly violated its airspace, why didn't they send a warning signal? Is there another hidden motive? Let's find out. On the night of March 31, 2025, a Turkish-manufactured Akinci surveillance drone operated by the Malian military was flying across the desert region in Mali's far northeast. The drone had been in the process of identifying and fishing out a terrorist group when suddenly it fell from the sky and crashed in an uninhabited area in Tinzawatine, close to the border between Mali and Algeria. Video footage showed that the drone had been shot down. A few hours later, in the early hours of April 1st, the Algerian army revealed that an air defense unit in the border region shot down an armed reconnaissance drone that had entered Algerian airspace. According to them, the drone was targeted because it had violated its airspace by more than 2 kilometers, thus calling it an armed surveillance drone. However, the authorities in Mali refuted Algeria's claims. According to the military authorities in Mali, a preliminary investigation revealed that the drone was flying over Malian territory about 10 kilometers from the Algerian borders. In other words, the drones did not enter into the Algerian airspace. Interestingly, the crashed drone wasn't found in Algeria's territory, but in Tinzawatine, in Mali. The authorities in Mali also revealed that the last transmission it got from the drone before it was shot down was about a meeting of terrorists who were planning to take actions against Mali. Given the fact that these terrorist groups have caused significant damage to Mali and its citizens, it is quite understandable that the authorities in Mali would be angry at the destruction of the drone. It is not just the loss of an expensive military asset, but also the loss of potential information, which would have helped to eliminate these terrorists. This is why the authorities in Mali did not hesitate to accuse Algeria of sponsoring terrorism. This was asserted by the Prime Minister of Mali, General Abdoulaye Maiga. He said that the incident proves that the Algerian regime sponsors international terrorism. Now let's take a pause and think about this critically. The Algerian military is not a stranger to the fact that Mali has been experiencing severe insecurity since 2012. In fact, Algeria has acted as a mediator several times in the conflict in Mali, which we will talk more on later. Besides this, the Algerian military is one of the strongest in Africa, with the best military equipment and military intelligence. This means that Algeria could definitely tell the location where the drone came from. Now, Mali has been operating drones in order to quickly identify terrorist groups, something they have not identified from anyone. This also means that the Algerian military is aware of the drone operations of the Malian military. So, as a good neighbor that has even attempted to help solve the crisis in Mali, why did Algeria decide to shoot down the drone from Mali, calling it an armed surveillance drone, even if the drone actually violated its airspace? Both countries are supposed to be neighbors and do not have any issues with one another. So why didn't Algeria simply send a warning signal so that those operating the drone in Mali would quickly leave the Algerian airspace? But they didn't and went ahead to shoot down the expensive drone. Doesn't that seem weird? Supposing Mali and Algeria were in a war, then shooting the drone would be very understandable. But they are not, so why shoot down the drone? In our opinion, it sounds fishy. Even if the Algerian military claimed that it was simply protecting its territory, there were other ways to go about it than simply shooting it down. So, the big question is, why did they shoot down the drone? We will come back to this question later. But after the news began to circulate the internet, 1,000 people gathered together at Mali's capital Bamako at the call of Malian youth organizations. They gathered together to protest against what they consider an aggression of Algeria, accused by Mali of having shot down a drone from its army in Malian territory. The rally, organized by the National Youth Council of Mali, CNJ, an umbrella organization for federations, associations, and youth movements, was held at a conference center in the Malian capital. I came to support our authorities in the face of Algeria's aggression. Algiers has always played a double game with Mali. We just want a normal and honest relationship with them to confront our common challenges, said one of the protesters. Beyond the protest, members of the AES Confederation, of which Mali is a part, have also expressed their support. In a coordinated move, the three member countries withdrew their ambassadors from Algeria and released a joint statement through the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. According to the statement, the AES condemned Algeria's actions as an irresponsible act that violated international law, announcing the ambassador withdrawals publicly via social media. The AES said it considers the act an aggression against the entire confederation and contrary to historical relations and fraternal relations between the peoples of the AES Confederation and the Algerian people. The envoys have been recalled for consultations over the contribution to destabilization in the region, the AES added. The destruction of the aircraft, which was flying near the Algerian border town of Tinzouatine on the night of March 31st, April 1st, prevented the neutralization of a terrorist group that was planning terrorist acts against the AES, an AES statement said. For its part, Algeria has denied any wrongdoing and accused Mali of trying to redirect blame for its internal problems. In a statement released by the Algerian Foreign Ministry, it stated that junta of putschists ruling in Mali is vainly attempting to make our country a scapegoat for the setbacks and woes of which the Malian people are paying the heaviest price. Algeria also closed its airspace, banning flights to and from Mali. Since the incident, tensions between both countries have grown. Like Algeria, Mali has also closed its airspace and banned flights to and from Algeria. This has caused a serious challenge for Algeria's national airline, Air Algeria. Since Air France was kicked out of the Sahel, Air Algeria had taken its place, providing air service in the region. However, with the recent tension between both sides, the Algerian national air carrier now finds itself squeezed. As a result of its decision to close its airspace, Mali had sent a NOTAM about the dispute to the International Civil Aviation Organization. According to Mali's Transport Ministry, the notice is meant for the entire sector, meaning no exemption to Air Algeria. As such, the airline must either reroute passengers or offer refunds. This is no small blow, either logistically or financially. Analysts have stated that Air Algeria's customers are the first to suffer, since they are simply barred from flying. So, you can see how the dispute between two African countries has resulted in a political crisis with repercussions for both countries' aviation sectors. The question is this how African countries will achieve African unity? Now, beside closing its airspace, the authorities in Mali have made a series of decisions involving external bodies in its dispute with Algeria. First, Mali has opened a judicial investigation in particular for acts of terrorism. This was announced by the public prosecutor of the Specialized Judicial Pole for the Fight Against Terrorism and Organized Transnational Crime. According to a court statement, the prosecutor announced that he had opened this judicial information for acts of criminal association, act of terrorism, financing of terrorism, illegal possession of weapons and ammunition, and complicity. This judicial inquiry was launched following the announcement by the Transitional Government and the College of Heads of State of the Confederation of Sahel States, AES, regarding the destruction of a drone belonging to the Malian army on the night of March 31st to April 1st in Tinzouatine, located in the Kidal region, according to the press release. In addition, Mali has submitted a letter to the UN Security Council concerning the incident. We did not request a meeting of the Security Council, nor did we file a formal complaint. These could be the next steps, depending on how our information is received and how the case evolves, an advisor to the Malian Minister of Foreign Affairs explained. Interestingly, Algeria has also notified the Security Council with its own version of the events. In two letters dated April 7th, both countries submitted their respective government communiques to the Security Council regarding the destruction of the Malian drone, without formally referring the matter to the Council. In this case, Their positions are now clear. Mali condemns what it calls a hostile act and accuses Algeria of supporting terrorism, while Algeria claims its airspace was violated and accuses Mali's transitional leaders of pursuing a deceptive strategy. Meanwhile, the West African regional bloc, ECOWAS, has expressed deep concern over the escalating tensions between Mali and Algeria. In an official statement, the organization urged both nations to de-escalate the situation, prioritize dialogue, and make use of regional and continental mechanisms to resolve their differences. The question now is, will both sides heed ECOWAS' call and settle their dispute peacefully? The coming days will surely reveal the answer. But here's the more pressing question. Why did Algeria shoot down that drone in the first place? To answer that, we need to go back in time. Mali and Algeria share a long history rooted in a common experience of French colonial oppression. However, since gaining independence in 1960 and 1962 respectively, relations between the two countries have experienced several rough patches. Chief among the points of contention is security along the 1,300-kilometer border they share. As you may recall, Mali experienced its fourth Tuareg uprising in 2012. The Tuaregs, a nomadic ethnic group in northern Mali, have long sought independence. They claim they want to break away from Mali to form their own state in the north. This aspiration has led to repeated uprisings, first in the 1960s, again in the 1990s, then in the early 2000s, and between 2006 and 2009. Throughout these periods of conflict, Algeria has repeatedly attempted to mediate by engaging both sides. In fact, since 1962, Algeria has sponsored 4 different agreements between the Malian government and the Tuareg rebels, none of which have led to lasting peace. Some analysts view Algeria's persistent involvement as an attempt to impose its own agenda on Mali. In 2015, after 3 years of fighting between Mali's army and northern rebel groups, Algeria successfully mediated a peace agreement known as the Algiers Accord. Backed by the United Nations, the Algiers Accord has long been regarded as a key framework for maintaining stability in a region plagued by jihadist violence since 2012. The agreement aimed to integrate former rebels into the national army and grant greater autonomy to Mali's various regions. However, even with the Algiers Accord in place, tensions between Mali, the northern rebels, and Algeria persisted. Following the military coups in 2020 and 2022, the situation further escalated. Clashes broke out between Tuareg rebels, who have at times collaborated with terrorist groups, and Mali's new military-led government. Unlike the previous civilian administration, which allowed Algeria to play a prominent role in Mali's internal affairs, the current military government has strongly denounced Algerian interference. This shift became more apparent after Mali formally withdrew from the 2015 Algiers peace agreement. In December 2023, Mali recalled its ambassador to Algeria, accusing Algerian authorities of meddling in its internal affairs by holding unauthorized meetings with rebel leaders, an action that deepened already fragile diplomatic ties. Algeria had, in fact, engaged with Tuareg rebel leaders without informing Mali's military leadership. Analysts argue that Algeria sees itself as having a strategic right to intervene in Malian politics, especially in matters involving regional security. While Algeria does not necessarily oppose Mali's military rule, it has openly criticized the transitional government's move to restrict its influence within the country. It would interest you to know that Algeria hosts and supports nearly all opposition forces to the Bamako government, whether religious, secular, or tribal. It has always used the opposition against the Malian government as leverage. However, the military government of Mali has refused to back down into compliance. Analysts believe that Algeria's endgame is not to overthrow Mali's military rulers, but aims to re-establish its influence over Malian foreign policy. Once this goal is achieved, Algeria is likely to abandon opposition factions, including armed groups, leaving them to Bamako. Now, while it's not really clear why Algerians shot down the drone, it can be inferred that it has something to do with its interference policy in Mali. Algeria strongly believes that its 2015 Algiers Accord will solve the crisis. However, the military-good Mali doesn't believe so. In the coming days, it would be interesting to see how both sides will deal with this dispute. But while both sides are trying to deal with the dispute, what is clear is that regional unity is in shambles. African countries ought to learn how to deal with issues peacefully, because there are external agents who are ready to benefit from conflicts between African countries. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, drop a comment and subscribe to our channel.